Hi boys and girls. So today in Indiana history, we're going to learn about pioneer living. We're going to pick up where we left off in about December when we finished learning about Indiana becoming a state to the United States on, do you remember? Okay, that's right, December 11th, 1816. And one more question for you. Do you remember how many people had to be a part of that territory before they could become a state? That's right, 60,000 people. So back on December 11th, 1816, Indiana became a state in the United States. So now we're going to fast forward a little bit and we're going to learn about pioneers and pioneer living. As you can see from your e-learning assignments, I have given you, I think, 2 or 3 videos on pioneers and pioneer living. So do go through those, watch them. I know one video, it's a long one. I only assigned the first 5 minutes and 30 seconds of it, and you have to read it. So go ahead and just read the first 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and then on another e-learning day, I will pick up some more minutes for you to watch. It's a great video on pioneers. So I'm going to read to you the next lesson in social studies. It's called Pioneer Living. Now there will be 3 vocabulary words that I'll be reading about, and we need to learn. So the first vocabulary word is ferry. A ferry is a boat used to carry people and goods across a body of water. So we're going to learn about how, as they came to a river or they came to a body of water, what did they do? How did they get their goods across to the other side? So we're going to learn about a ferry. The next thing we're going to learn about is a lean-to. Now this is a very important structure. It wasn't permanent. It was to make do while they were building their log cabin. So a lean-to is a simple shelter that had 3 walls made of tree branches and twigs. And then we have their permanent structure called a log cabin. And a log cabin is a home made of logs from large trees that settlers cut down. So right now, boys and girls, I'm going to read to you the chapter called Pioneer Living so that we can get to know exactly how did the pioneers survive during this time period where they are traveling to a new area. They had to go through many dense woods. They had to cross many rivers. How did they get from one place to another safely and then start their village? Okay, so I have just a couple of pages to read. It should take no more than maybe 3 or 4 minutes pertaining to these 3 vocabulary words. A long journey. After the Indiana Territory became a state in 1816, many people moved there. New settlers built homes, hunted, and farmed in Indiana. They worked together to build better lives. In 1816, Indiana had a great deal of open land available for sale. Thousands of pioneers looking for a better life moved to the new state. Most traveled from nearby states including Kentucky, Ohio, and Virginia. Indiana's population rose from 24,000 in 1810 to more than 340,000 by 1830. Many pioneers traveled to Indiana by horse and wagon. Others had to cross the Ohio River. At that time, there were no bridges over the river. To cross the river, pioneers had to hire a ferry. A ferry is a boat used to carry people and goods across a body of water. Once the settlers crossed the river, they had to walk through Indiana's thick forest to find a place to call home. The Land Ordinance of 1785 had to set up a system for buying and selling land. It also divided land into sections known as townships. Abraham Lincoln, a future president of the United States, moved from Kentucky to Indiana with his parents and sister in 1816. Lincoln's father, Thomas, bought land in Indiana under the Ordinance of 1785. Like other pioneer families, the Lincolns began to settle into their new surroundings. The new residents needed shelter to live in. Because houses took a while to build, many settlers put up a lean-to put up a lean-to. A lean-to was a simple shelter that had 3 walls made of tree branches and twigs. The 4th side usually faced the south and was open to allow for the most sunlight to come in during the day to warm the shelter. Most settlers built a log cabin for their permanent home. A log cabin is a home made of logs from large trees that the settlers cut down. The logs were stacked to form the cabin walls. The spaces between the logs were filled with mud and clay. Log cabins usually had only one room, which was used as a kitchen, living room, and bedroom. Children often slept above the main room in a loft. Food was also stored in the loft. The settlers hunted rabbits, deer, and wild turkeys to feed their families. They also made their own clothes, medicine, and furniture. Many settlers were also farmers. Before they could plant their crops, they had to clear the thick forests. They chopped down trees with an axe and used the trees to build their shelters. Corn was the most important crop the pioneers grew. They learned about corn from Native Americans. They used it to feed their families. They also fed it to the livestock. Sometimes a family killed one of their livestock to make sure they would have enough food for the winter. Every member of a pioneer family had to help with jobs such as farming, cooking, gardening, making clothes, and keeping house. Settlers also shared in the work of building homes, barns, and harvesting crops. Many pioneer families faced hardships and losses. Pioneer women gave birth to many children, but very few lived into adulthood. Some died from disease or in accidents. Others were killed by wild animals. Pioneer families had to adjust to these hardships as they settled into their lives in Indiana. So boys and girls, you can see that during this time with these pioneers, life was hard. It was not easy. They worked from sunup to sundown. They worked hard. They moved to a new area. They had to build a home, build their furniture. Everything they did, they used the land for all their resources. So boys and girls, as you are watching these YouTube videos after this lesson, really put yourself into the life of these kids, this family, and know that right now we are going through some difficult times, but keep in mind, life is not always difficult. We have times of difficulties, but really take into consideration that these families, they worked together and they stuck together as a family and they worked together and they were happy. They did what they could, when they could, and they worked together as a family like we're doing to this day. So boys and girls, if you have any questions, have your mom or dad email me, text me, and I can answer any questions that you may have. So I hope you enjoy learning about pioneers and pioneer living. On Thursday, we'll wrap up pioneers, and so enjoy. Bye, boys and girls.